All right, welcome to Math in a Minute. We are going to go back and revisit we're going to review a little bit of linear systems and then also specifically look at how to write equations from point slope or from 2 points. All right, so this is just a quick review, but whenever we have points on a straight line, we call that a linear relation or a linear function. And this one in particular is the equation for it. It's right here. It's x plus y equals 8. So what that means is whatever x I put in, so if I look right here, if I look at x equals 1, comes out is 7. Does that make sense to you if it's written that way? Probably not, because we really like it to be in the form the output is equal to minus x plus 8. Because it makes a lot more sense to you if I say, okay, your job, when I give you an input number, is to multiply it by minus 1 and then add 8. So if I give you 1, you're going to turn into minus 1, add 8, and what's going to come out is 7. Which makes sense because this point right here is 1, 7. This is also a nice form because here's your slope. Oops. And here's your y-intercept. So it's just a nice and more intuitive way of looking at an equation. But anyway, I get ahead of myself here. Just a reminder that there are actually 4 kinds of slopes. Positive, we always go left to right. So positive starts in the bottom left, goes up to the right. Negative starts in the top left and goes down to the right. And then we have horizontal lines, which have 0 slope. And if you think about this for a minute, since slope, actually let me go over here, slope is always defined as rise over run. And so it basically, between any 2 points, it's what is your vertical change, what is your horizontal change. And actually really in math we like to write this as your change in y over your change in x. You might have seen those in science. So here, if it's a horizontal line, it never has any vertical change, and so it's always 0 over, let's call it 1. So the slope is 0. And actually, we always write these equations, they're always y equals 2 is equal to constant. And similarly, if you have a vertical line, it actually never has any horizontal change. But you do have vertical change, so there is a delta y, and you cannot divide by 0. So the slope is undefined, which is right here, and its equation, because it's always true, is x is equal to whatever the constant is. So that's just a quick review. Okay, so there are 3 ways that we like to write linear equations. This one is the standard form, or the general form, and I actually prefer it to be your x and y terms on the left and your constant terms on the right. And then we threw in vertical and horizontal lines because they are important just to know them. So then your other forms are slope-intercept, which we've also worked with. And this final one is called point slope. And so you have your variables, y and x. And then you have 3 knowns. So this is an actual point, x1, y1. That's your slope. And up here, just to remind you, that's your slope. And that's your y-intercept. Okay? What I wanted to do was a couple different examples of how to write linear equations when you're given a point and a slope, and then when you are given 2 points. So you really just, it's pretty straightforward. So we have this equation, or formula, or form, right here. And this form is always true with the linear equation. You just need your slope and your point. So I usually like to start by rewriting my formula. So it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, I know m is minus 4, and I know x1 is minus 1, and I know y1 is 7. You see where I got the x1 and the y1? Over here. So this is x1 comma y1, just your xy coordinate. All right, then it's pretty much, so y minus doesn't change, that's your variable. So I put in what I know, y1 is 7, and that's all equal to, I know m is minus 4, times x minus, that's your variable, doesn't change, and x1 is minus 1. And you'll notice I put it in parentheses. And that's just because it's a negative number, and I don't like to forget my negatives. That helps me not make too many mistakes. So then I am going to go back and simplify. And whenever I have minus minus 1, that's really plus 1. And you're done. All right, at this point, you should pause the video and go try number 2 for yourself, and then come back and see what I do. All right, so here is my solution. So m is 2/3. x1 is minus 6. And y1 is minus 5. Rewrite my equation here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus 5 is equal to 2/3 times x minus 6. Notice again I use those parentheses around negative numbers just to remind myself. Okay, so y minus minus 5 becomes plus 5 is equal to 2/3. We have x minus minus 6 becomes plus 6. And there you go. There are your 2 lines. So the nice thing about videos, you can always pause and go back, but hopefully you took the time to try to do that on your own. So last little piece here. Well, what if you have 2 points instead of slope and a point? Well, then you just have to slope, you've got to find slope first. So it really just turns this into 2 steps. Step 1 is find m, and step 2 is rate the equation. All right, here's just a reminder of how you find slope. And as a second reminder, let's call this our first point. It clearly looks like a y1 because I don't think it does. Ooh, sorry about this. I don't have a good eraser, so try that again. Okay, so this is x1, and that's y1. This is x2, and that's y2. So going left to right, can you see why the first one's x1 and the second one is x2? Let's do our slope going left to right. And if you think about a coordinate axis, the first point is at minus 6, 1, so somewhere around there. And your second point is at minus 3, 7, so somewhere up here. So because the x coordinates are further along to the right, that's what makes it the second point. Right, so then slope is going to be equal to, rewrite it, y2 minus y1 for x2 minus x1. So it's equal to 7 minus 1 over minus 3 minus 6, which equals 6 over, so it ends up being minus 3 plus 6. So it ends up being 6 over 3 or 2. Double check that. Does that make sense? So I went up 6 and I went over 3. So yep, makes sense. Right, and then now we just want to write the equation. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. To be truthful, you can use any point you want. We are going to use x1 and y1 just to be safe, or just to be clear. I don't like to mix things up. This is where you should pause the video and see if you can write this equation out. My solution is going to be y minus 1 is equal to 2 times x minus 6, or y minus 1 is equal to 2 times x plus 6. All right, so now you should pause the video and try to do the whole next problem by yourself.